Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends. Welcome back to r/PettyRevenge. Because sometimes in life, you just want the little victories because not everybody deserves to have their lives crumble, guys. So in this episode, you're going to hear 4 petty revenge stories. The first story, OP deals with a road rager. The second story, OP goes to war against his neighbors. The third, a hostess makes a Karen feel horrible about herself. And we'll finish up with a story where somebody messes with laundry. Guys, I do hope you enjoy the stories today and hit that subscribe button for future stories, my friends. Let's dive in. So, to start off, my entire adult life, people have thought that I was a cop or I look like a cop. I have a shaved head because I'm balding. I'm tall and I'm kind of imposing, I guess. I'm obviously not a cop, I'm not a gun owner, or anything like that, so there's no cop wannabe slant going on here. I simply get mistaken for a cop a lot. I've never pretended to be a cop or act on this in any real way either. So I'm driving along on a road in town and I'm approaching a stoplight where I see a minivan stopped at the light on the left lane. The right lane is also occupied. A small sports car is rolling behind the minivan. I watch the light change to green as I'm slowing down and in an instant, a convertible sports car guy is honking, just laying on the horn. I can see the minivan has a mom in it, and she's dealing with some kids, but she didn't do any gross delay in moving the van forward for the green light before this guy is laying on the horn. What an a-hole, I'm thinking. He then whips his car around her to the left into oncoming traffic and nearly causes an accident. He passes her, and then as the traffic has picked up speed, he's in front of the van and abruptly stops for no reason, forcing her to slam on the brakes and almost rear-ending him. I just so happen to be in the right lane to get a perfect view of all this douchebaggery. Just as he's looking into his rearview mirror and smiling with a middle finger out the window, I pull up right beside him with my window down, and while pointing at him in my most booming voice I say, "You!" He turns around and looks at me, and his smile evaporates and his eyes get big. I said, "Pull over onto the next street, park your car, and wait for a uniformed officer. Do not leave the scene." So, to my surprise, he nods. He takes a left and pulls over, and I slowly cruise past him and repeat, "Do not leave the scene." And I laugh to myself how quickly this guy's little road rage move went from a smile to, "Oh crap," and then I go on my way to get my groceries. So, here's the best part. I have to drive by the same spot coming back 45 minutes later, and he's still there. He's out of the car now, leaning on it, and looking frustrated at the no-show cop. Guys, this was a marvelous petty revenge. So, at first when I read it, I thought, okay, that's a good revenge, but isn't impersonating a cop illegal? And then I realized that OP never once said that he was an officer, or even implied that he was one. He basically just told the guy to pull over to the side of the road and wait for police and do not leave the scene, which is absolutely brilliant. I love this comment right here. On behalf of van driving moms everywhere, thank you for putting him in timeout. And holy crap, did he ever put him in timeout. Guys, I wonder how long the guy waited before he realized that no officer was coming. How long would you guys wait until you bailed from the scene? So once, many years ago, we innocently bought a house next door to a retired Marine couple. She was about 6'2" and strongly resembled Arnold in his current state, and he was about 5'7" and probably weighed 130 pounds. They were very house and yard proud and thoroughly obnoxious about it. So after living next to them for a short time, for some unknown reason, they decided to mount a campaign of general obnoxiousness against us. It started small, a note on a friend's car that he was 3 inches over on their side when he parked on the street in front of our house. Then it escalated rapidly. So they reported us to animal control for farm animals inside the city limits. We had 2 Shih Tzus. They were not used to pull a plow. They reported us to the health department for leaving our pool with a small amount of water in it and breeding mosquitoes. They also reported us for repairing our fence without a permit. We weren't moving it, we weren't tearing it down or replacing it, we merely nailed some boards back up. They reported us for loud parties and quiet parties and no parties. They called City Hall on us so often, it became a joke amongst those hallowed halls. All the while they continued with small harassments as well. We ignored all of this, just making sure that we had an extra plate for whatever city official they called out that day. But then, they committed the ultimate crime. So, we were breakfasting on the patio one lovely morning, when I happened to look over and see a sprayer nozzle come through the fence slats. And they sprayed poison on my tomato and jalapeno plants. Now, we love our salsa, and I make an absolutely exquisite fresh salsa. And they dared spray poison on my tomato and jalapeno plants. Poison my tomatoes and peppers, will you? In Texas, that's a killing offense. But sadly, we did not live in Texas, so I was forced to devise my own punishment. One thing about their house is that it must have been built on an anthill. They constantly fought ants. We regularly heard them complaining about ants as they tried to rid them from their backyard. Our homes were built on a golf course, and being considered patio homes, all had lovely large patios with huge kitchen windows with sliding glass doors. So I made a very, very large batch of simple syrup and froze it in ice cube trays. Friends and I would sit on our patio and toss the ice cubes. So we had a point system that ranged from getting the cubes on the patio, to getting them up against the base of the sliding door, to getting them on the counter and up against the opening of the window. We gave them ants. Lots of ants. Not being particularly close neighbors, the Marines gave us no warning when they went on vacation. We did notice that it got quieter, and I didn't overhear any further discussion between them about the sticky mess that regularly showed up on their patio. But I didn't really think about it. Besides, I was behind on points, so the bombardment continued. The ants celebrated. They sent out telegrams worldwide inviting all of their relatives to move. They had found paradise. The grass was green and there were regular supply drops. They invaded. There were tiny black ants, larger brown ants, and big red ants. They built neighborhoods of McAntsians. Ant Rockettes did the can-can across the counter. They held parades. There were Friday night fiestas with live ant mariachi bands. It was beautiful. I went through 3 5-pound bags of sugar. So we knew exactly when the Marines got home from their 6-week cruise. We could tell by the screeches of anguish. Apparently, the ants had made their way inside. There were screams from the kitchen, the pantry, the laundry room, and the bathroom. It was ear-shattering. Who knew that a 5'7" male could make those sounds? The battle was enjoined. The army ants dug foxholes and built redoubts. The fire ants formed a special forces team with close protection units. The war raged for months. Despite regular resupply, the ants were decimated though. The Marines were seen collapsed in patio chairs, hollowed eyes with exhaustion. Their once pristine backyard closely resembling the aftermath of the Battle of Ypres. Peace talks were held. Detente was achieved. Until the Marines got their second breath and reinforcements in the form of their son, the Marine Jr. Further shenanigans ensued, and yours truly discovered that raccoons are not only exceedingly dexterous, they are surprisingly fond of overripe figs, but that's another tale. Now that's a great way to get back at your neighbors. Guys, I feel like this petty revenge is bordering on pro-revenge territory. It was a super calculated revenge and caused the neighbors a ton of headache and grief. I couldn't imagine my house being invaded by ants though. I might have to burn the place down at that point. Or just move. I might just move. I also love how OP said that he had 2 Shih Tzus, but they weren't used to pull plows. And why not? They totally could. It sounds friggin' adorable. So this was back about a year ago when I worked in the restaurant business. I was a hostess, and often we'd get people who were mad about call-ahead seating. Now, call-ahead seating is not a reservation. It's a way for you to be more ahead on the waiting list if you called in advance. So I'd often get people who were angry about having to wait, even though they, quote, made a reservation. Well, I had a Karen once come in with, I'm assuming her husband. Now, she had a bit longer hair than the normal haircut, but was an extremely rude person. I also have to mention that she was a bit on the larger side. So at this restaurant, we have 2-person booths and 4-person booths. I'd often try to accommodate to people a bit larger, this Karen, by sitting them in a 4-person booth. Well, one night, we were extremely busy, 2-page waiting list. Karen comes in about 30 minutes after her call ahead was listed, and she's now around the middle part of the list. I sit a few tables before her when she comes up to me complaining that we have a reservation. Why is it taking so long? This is ridiculous. So I explained to her that it's a call ahead, and she's more ahead on the list than people who came in before her. So she goes back and sits down, and about 15 minutes later, she comes up again. She's more angry, and I explain it'll only be about 15 more minutes. Now, Karen's getting really angry, saying, I told you we should have gone to another restaurant nearby. And at this point, I'm tired. I've worked 10 hours, and honestly, I felt like if I'm gonna be at this job, I should at least have one story to take with me when I leave. So I see a 2-person booth has opened up. I explain that, ma'am, we have a 2-person booth that just opened up. I'd be happy to sit you there if that's okay. So she just smiles that smug grin, letting us know she won, so I feel a little bit better about doing this. I take her to an open part of the restaurant in view of most people there, and just sit back and watch before placing their menus down. She frowns a bit, but I guess she wanted to prove something. She gets about halfway into the booth before her stomach rams up against the table, which is bolted to the floor, and she grunts and groans and finally gets in, with about a third of her leg hanging out and her stomach a bit on the table. I see a few people around watching, in I'm assuming amusement or shock. Her husband then asked if they can get another table, and Karen says nothing. I tell her husband sure, and I'm sorry this one didn't work. To be fair, he was nice the whole time, he just had his head down and waiting. That poor guy. So I bring them back to the lounge to wait, and she doesn't say a word until I finally call for a 4-person booth. This is probably one of the meanest things I've done in my life, but hey, it's hard to get some petty revenge just being the hostess. So I'm actually speechless, and many people in the comment section of the post are divided. Some people are saying that OP went a little too far by doing this to her, by using Karen's size for her own amusement, and the other half say she 100% deserved it. This person right here says she needed that embarrassment, otherwise she would have continued harassing you. My friends, do you agree or disagree with what OP did? And judging by the comments in this post, many hostesses have also done the same thing or something similar to rude customers who are a little too demanding or get in their face. So, I used to be kind of an ass. I really mellowed out since, but sometime around 2001 to 2002, I had an incident in my university dorm laundry room. I can pinpoint the year because my freshman year was the only year our laundry machine took quarters. Machines accepted a university cash card system the following years. Anyway, I'm a freshman living in the dorm, and it's the weekend, and I'm doing laundry. Now, we had an unwritten rule in the laundry room. If you don't attend to your laundry, it's totally cool for someone to pull it out and throw it on the table, wet or dry. If you don't like it, just promptly attend to your laundry when the washer or dryer turns off. I assume it's like this on a lot of campuses. I don't like people touching my laundry, so I always set an alarm to be there when it's done. I wash my clothes, throw them in the dryer, and then set my timer. Soon after, my watch goes off, and I walk back to the laundry room, only to find my dryer load completely wet and on the table. Oh hell no. Somebody pulled my stuff from the dryer, only to dump it out and dry their stuff for free. Well, good news. I had more quarters, so I could dry my stuff just fine. Actually, I had enough quarters for my anonymous friend too. Why didn't they just ask? So I grab their clothes and throw it into an open washing machine with 6 of my spare quarters. Actually, wait, I can drop another quarter in there for the heavy cycle, which entitles you to an additional rinse and spin. I happen to have another quarter, so I do. The spin cycle takes over an hour and a half to complete. So now's a good time to mention a nice feature that the washing machines had that the dryers didn't. They locked while in operation. The person who took my clothes out of the dryer would have been stuck for about 100 minutes waiting for another chance to dry their clothes. I hope they made better choices the second time. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our /petty revenge. My friends, I hope you enjoyed the stories today, and if you did, do leave a like. If you missed the last episode of our /petty revenge, OP leaves her ex stranded on a mountain. And if you want to hear a story where a Karen knocks somebody off a ladder and faces jail time, you gotta click right here. And I'll see you guys in the next one. I love you.